Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
So, let us now start our discussion of our first model, what I told, that circular flow diagram. Okay, circular flow diagram. So, through this diagram, okay, let me now introduce here two concepts called microeconomics and macroeconomics. So, microeconomics is that portion of economics where we discuss how individual behaves. Okay. This individual may be one single person or maybe one unit like farm or household, how they behave, how they interact among themselves and so on. So, this is about microeconomics is about the decision making or optimal decision making of economic agents and their interactions among themselves. Okay. What is macroeconomics then? Macroeconomics is how the entire society operates, how the entire economy, say entire India's country's economy or entire India's society, how that behaves. So, entire economy how it operates, that is the subject matter of macroeconomics. So, these two terminologies we will also use. Okay. And the circular flow diagram is some sort of macroeconomic representation of the entire economics operation. So, it is a macroeconomic representation, although its building blocks are microeconomic agents like farms and households. Okay. So, the circular flow diagram one side. So, this is this kind of diagram. Okay. So, one side of this diagram is say household is there, and another side of this diagram is farm is there. Okay. So, farms are responsible to produce goods and services we told, but when farms are going to produce goods and services, what is the resources they will use? Definitely certain factors of production they have to hire, so that using those factors of production they can produce some goods and services. So, the resource what farms needs to produce goods and services, those are called factors of production, and those factors of production we can broadly classified into four groups. So, those are called land, labor, capital. So, these are the three factors of production, and the person or organization who combine these three factors of production, he or she is called entrepreneur, entrepreneur or organization. Okay. So, and in economics each of these factors of production has specific definition, like land. It's land, usually when we tell land, as if we are referring the upper surface of the earth, that is not land in economics only, that is land, but something else also is land, is a part of land. So, land in economics is rather having a larger definition, more wider definition. In economics, resources which are directly available from the nature without any human intervention, that is called land. In that way, upper surface of the earth is also land. When you are getting a big log of timber from forest, that is also land. Okay. When you are getting some ore from mines, that is also land. Okay. Directly available natural resources are called land. Water from the sea or river, that is also land in economics. Okay. It is little bit broader definition. What is labor? Labor is physical or psychological, mental power of human being, whatever it has, right, or they have. Okay, that is called labor. Capital in economics, capital also has a little bit broader definition. Usually capital means we know that some money perhaps, or maybe some machine or something like that. In economics, capital means, yes, money is also, that is sometimes called monetary capital in economics. Machine also, it is an capital. So, in economics, definition of capital is that it is called capital produced means of products, produced means of production. So, one resource or factor of production means of production means factor of production which is already produced. We told that land, that timber, a log of timber what you directly get from a forest, that is land in economics, right. Now, suppose you are cutting that big log into certain specific sized pieces, blocks, wooden blocks, right. Those wooden blocks will be called capital. Why? Because using that blocks you are going to produce something else, say maybe chair, maybe certain furnitures, right. So, when it is a raw timber log from directly collected from forest, it is land, but when that timber log is transformed into certain pieces of specific diameter or specific sized certain pieces of wooden log, those will be called capital. Why those will be called capital? And this is, look at the definition of capital, produced means of production. This is some means of production, some factors of production which is already produced through certain production activity. What is that production activity here? Production activity through which you are transforming the timber log into certain specific pieces of land or specific sized pieces of wooden logs or wooden blocks, right. Using that, what kind of further production activity you will do? You will produce certain furnitures. Okay. So, capital and land definition in economics, in that way the kind of definition or common sense you people already have in your mind, here the definition is little bit broader kind of thing. So, those are the 4 factors of production, and when entrepreneur and organization, right, the person or a group of people or the organization who is organizing these 3 factors of production and employing them together to produce something. So, that organizer, what his target, what he wants to get through this production activity, he will try to get some profit. So, here 4 factors of production in economics. So, 3 factors of production actually are there, and 4th factor of production is actually organizing, employing other 3 factors of production together and employing them for a production activity. So, each of them have some remuneration they are targeting, like entrepreneur is trying to get some profit. What will be profit? Okay. Entrepreneur, whatever he is producing through these production activities, goods and services, that he or she will sell in the market, it will get some sales revenue. From that revenue, it will pay other 3 factors of production what he is hiring. Okay. Land's remuneration usually called rent, labor's remuneration usually called wage, and capital's remuneration usually called interest. Okay. So, I am an organizer, I am an entrepreneur, I am producing something. After that production, whatever goods and services, whatever I am producing, that I will sell in the market, I will get some sales revenue. From that sales revenue, I will give land, whatever land I hire, I will pay rent for that, wage I will pay to the labor what I hire, and interest I will pay to the capital what I hire, and after these 3 payments from my sales revenue, whatever is remaining to me, that is my profit. Okay. So, since profit is a remainder thing, profit can be negative also, right. So, whatever I am selling in the market, if that sales revenue is not enough to meet up all this rent, wage and interest, I can get some negative profit, right. So, revenue minus rent minus wage minus interest, whatever is remaining, that is called profit. Okay. So, these are the 4 factors of production in economics, their definition, okay, and what is their remuneration, respective remuneration. Okay. Now, let me erase all these things. Okay. Now, the question is, these factors of production which firm is hiring to engage into production activity, who owns that? Okay. Definitely household. okay, some land I am hiring as a farm. So, that land is coming from some household who is actually own that land, who is the owner of that land, right. Similarly, labor I am hiring, labor are coming from some other households, right, capital. So, all these factors of production, even entrepreneur, I am an entrepreneur, I am also part of another household, right. So, all the factors of production what farm is using in its production activity, those are owned by household. So, factors of production, those are going from household to farm, and as a result they are getting some money from farm to, or monetary flow is coming from farm to household, okay. And this transaction is happening through a market, that is called market for factors of production, okay. So, this red color inner kind of flow, that is actually real flow, goods and services kind of thing, because that is tangible kind of thing is flowing. Some labor, some land, some capital are flowing from household to farm, okay. And outer this green color thing, that is basically monetary flow, money flow, outer ring, okay. Money flow, money in terms of what? In terms of rent, wage, interest, and of course profit, okay. Now, whatever money that households are earning from farm, okay, selling households resources, factors of production that is owned by household to the farm, okay. What using that money, what they are doing? Households are purchasing goods and services from the farms, okay. So, down panel, bottom panel right things, red color thing, that is also real thing, or some tangible goods and services are flowing from farm to households. Households are purchasing those from the farms for consumption purpose, goods and services whatever farms are generating, those are purchased by the households, okay. And monetary outer bottom outside green panel, this is money flow are going, because the kind of earning households are getting, those money they are using to purchase goods and services from the farms, okay. So, that transaction is happening by another market, that is called market for goods and services, goods and services. So, two markets are there, here markets for factors of production, here markets for goods and services. So, this circular flow diagram, what we demonstrate here, how the entire economy, how the production and consumption, two basic activities, two basic economic activities within a society are happening within. So, in an economy, in say Indian, entire Indian economy, this kind of lot of things are there. So many different types of production activities are happening, different types of farms are involved, those production activities, all you can capture together like this kinds of some circular flow diagram. Some household are associated there, corresponding some factors or some farms are associated there, and they are engaged into certain specific kind of production of goods and services. Similarly, another kind of, so entire macroeconomic activities broadly we can capture in this way through circular flow diagram. We have, let us demonstrate another model. So, this is our first model we are demonstrating in this course. Our second model is called production possibility frontier. What is that? Let us go to the next slide. So, production possibility frontier, that is our second model, production possibility frontier. So, before demonstrating production possibility frontier, let me introduce here another couple of concepts, that is called efficiency versus equity. So, as we told, any society it has limited amount of scarce resources. So, that is why resources are scarce, okay, and it has to manage with those scarce resources, right. So, by efficiency, when we tell the society is efficient, it is basically that society is capable of best utilizing of resources what is available. In other words, we can tell that maximum amounts of goods and services that society is able to produce using its scarce resources. If society can able to produce maximum amount, we will tell that society is efficient. If not, we will tell that that society is not efficient or inefficient. Okay. And another concept is called equity. What is equity? By equity, we are referring that whatever scarce resource any society has, how equally that resource is distributed among its members, among its economic agents. Okay. And you will realize sometimes after some lecture in future, you will realize in this course only, you will realize that usually any society face a trade off between these two. Means if you want to attain efficiency, perhaps you may have to compromise that equity principle. Both are desirable principle, both efficiency is important, equity also is important. But if you want to put more emphasis on one of them, you may have to compromise another, or other of them may have to compromise sometimes. Okay. Now, by the production possibility frontier, what we are drawing? Okay. Suppose a society, whatever vector of resources it has, okay, using that it can produce two commodities. Okay. Say those two commodities we are writing, say food and cloth, two basic commodities. Okay. Whatever resources, so given a resource vector what a society has, using that resource vector, if it wants to produce to these goods and services, or these two goods, foods and cloth, so this is the frontier we can get. That is why this is called production possibility frontier. This line, this concave kind of line, what we draw, say AB kind of concave line, by that line we are telling that it is the outer boundary of amount of food and cloth an economy can produce using its resources whatever it has. Okay. So, definitely if that society whatever it has the resources, everything if it employ only cloth production, it can generate this A point, only food production it can generate point B. If it can employ some amount of resources in food production and some amount of resources in cloth production, it can generate this point, this point, this point, or any of those points it can generate, depends on how much resources it is employing to cloth production, how much resources it is employing to food production, in that way, right. Mind that so long this society is able to generate any point on that frontier, outer boundary, that society is efficient. One society can produce this point, means what? Whatever resources it has, with that resources it can generate this point, it can generate this point, or it can generate this point, it can generate this point, it can generate that side any point. Okay. So, definitely this society who is producing this point, okay, this point means what? This much of food and that much of cloth, right. Definitely we can tell that that society is not efficient enough. It is inefficient, it fails to efficiently utilize its resources, okay, to production of two commodities, food and cloth, right. Now you can understand that every point, since it is a concave line, this kind of thing, every point it is changing its slope. So, by its slope, how we can term its slope? The slope of this production possibility frontier is called, okay. Some of your friend or you people now may have a question in your mind, why this production possibility frontier will be a concave kind of line, why it will be downward sloping, why it will be concave, why not it will be convex and all. Okay, I am coming to those points one by one, right. Let us first discuss what its slope refers. Its slope is called marginal rate of transformation. Look, when, so suppose when at this point, what is the slope? This point is slope is much more steeper, right. If you draw a slope here, it is much more steeper. So, if you from this point to that point, when you are going, suppose this is C point and this is D point, C point to D point you are going, means what? you are trying to produce little bit more food, because we are measuring food in the horizontal axis and cloth in the vertical axis, right. So, C point to D point means we are reallocating resources in such that we want to produce little bit more food, and in terms or at the cost of little bit cloth, more cloth. So, we are cutting down our cloth production to produce more food, right. So, marginal rate of transformation, the terminology at the margin, what is the rate of transformation between these two commodities, cloth to food. Okay. Let me clarify here, this transformation does not refer that as if we are literally transforming cloth into food. No, we are not doing that. What we are doing here? We are actually reallocating the resources in such that resultant we will get little bit more food and little bit less cloth. Okay. That is why it is called marginal rate of transformation, although we are not literally transforming cloth into food, right. That is the slope of this production possibility frontier is called marginal rate of transformation, MRT, marginal rate of transformation. Okay. That is the thing. Okay. Now, the first clarification, let me tell you why this production possibility frontier will be downward sloping, because what we repeatedly told, that any society has limited amount of resources. Resources are scarce, resources are not boundless or boundaryless, right. A huge amount of resources, no, it is not boundless, it is bounded, certain limited amount of resources are there. Now, with the limited amount of resources, if you want to produce one commodity extra, suppose this A point you are, from A point to this C point if you want to go, okay, can you go to this vertical above this C point, say suppose that is C dash point. What is telling that A point 0 amount of food and this much amount of cloth, right, and this C prime point is basically same amount of cloth, but some positive amount this much of food, right. That is not possible at all, because when entire resource vector whatever you have, the society has, if it can fully efficiently utilize that resource vector, then it can only generate this A point. So, definitely if it wants to produce some amount of food, it has to extract some resources from its cloth production and employ those resources into food production, right. So, that is why production possibility frontier will be always downward sloping. I hope this is understood to everybody. Okay. It can't be having the upward sloping, or it can be horizontal, or it can't be vertical, it can't be. Okay. It has to be downward sloping. Okay. Basic principle is that, or basic understanding is that if you want to cut down increase one production, you have to cut down the other production for sure. That is why it is downward sloping. Now, the second question is why this production possibility frontier will be concave. Okay, concave towards the origin, not this kind of thing, convex towards the origin. Let me try to understand that using another beautiful diagram. Okay. Actually, this production possibility frontier, because where the production possibility frontier what we drawn here, it is that so many different quality type of resources are there in a society, some land is there, some labor is there, capital is there, all kinds of different kinds of resources are there, and this kind of production possibility frontier what we have drawn like this. This kind of production possibility frontier is for an entire society, entire economy. Okay. Let me just play with this production possibility frontier a little bit. Suppose this is India's production possibility frontier in last year, and this year this is India's production possibility frontier. We are measuring food this side and cloth that side. So, this is last year production possibility frontier, outer production possibility frontier is this year. By this what we can refer, or what we can think. Okay. Its implication is that perhaps technological know-how, the technology knowledge level using which India is producing these two commodities, right. Cloth production, there is a technological innovation happens. That is why using the same amount of resources, it can be able to produce more cloth this year vis-a-vis the last year. Okay, but its food production is same. So, technological innovation happens in one of the two commodities production, food production it did not happen. Instead of, if this is the case, technological production happens in food production, but there is no technological innovation happens in cloth production. If this is the case, last year this was the thing, this year this is the thing, technological innovation takes place in both the production, but perhaps relatively more innovation happens in food production and relatively less innovation happens in cloth production and so on. Okay. In that way you can play around this kind of production possibility frontier. Now, let us quickly demonstrate why the production possibility frontier will be concave to the origin. Okay. Let me go to the another fresh slide, let me take. Okay. Suppose only one resource is there, say Robinson Crusoe's story, all of you know, right. Suppose Robinson Crusoe is in an island, right, and whatever resource it has, only the time in a day 24 hours. Out of that, perhaps 8 hours or 9 hours he is taking rest. Okay. Remaining whatever resource he has, time 16 hours or 15 hours, he is gathering coconuts, because lot of coconut trees are there in that island. So, he is gathering coconut to consume, to eat, right. So, we are trying to draw Robinson Crusoe's production possibility frontier. Okay. You might know that Robinson Crusoe has a friend. The people who know the Robinson Crusoe story, you know that he has a friend, his friend's name is called Friday. Okay. Suppose Robinson Crusoe and Friday, they are there in that island, okay, and they have a small fishing net. Okay. So, I am measuring coconut this side, coconut, and that side I am measuring fish. Okay. Now, suppose that Robinson Crusoe and Friday, 2 persons, no, Robinson is very efficient in coconut gathering, but Friday is not that much efficient in coconut gathering. Friday is more efficient to catching fish. Robinson is that much is not that much efficient in catching fish. So, if I draw their production possibility frontier, perhaps this is perhaps Robinson's production possibility frontier. It is a straight line, green straight line is Robinson's production possibility frontier, and red straight line is Friday's production possibility frontier. So, this green I am telling, this is the Robinson, this is the Friday, right. Now, so this production possibility frontier, Robinson and Friday's, whose that two separate production possibility frontier, what we do, it will be straight line only, because the same amount of labor, same quality kind of labor, how you are allocating between the two commodities gathering, okay, either coconut or fish. Now, suppose if both Robinson's whatever amount of labor per day and Friday's, both together labor they employ only for fish production, how much fish they can produce? They can produce definitely this much plus this much. Suppose that is here. Their entire amount of resources or available time, if they employ only coconut gathering, how much they can? This much plus that much. Suppose that is this, right. So, let us start with this point. Suppose this is our point A. How point A is generated? Both Robinson and his friend Friday, both whatever amount of time Robinson has per day, perhaps 15 hours, Friday also have 15 hours of labor per day. Those 15 hours plus 15 hours, if they employ entirely in catching fish, A point can be generated. Similarly, those 15 hours plus 15 hours, if they entirely employ only coconut gathering, this B point they can generate. This is the B point, right. Now, suppose they are starting with the A point. Okay. Now, they want to, because A point, no, only you are capturing fish, so only you are producing fish, so you are bored with fish consumption. This is only coconut you are good. So, they want to be some fish and some coconut in between, right. They want to consume little bit amount of fish and little bit amount of coconut as well. What they have to do from A point? They have to withdraw some labor from fish production to coconut production. Now, the question is whose labor? It is rational to withdraw whose labor from fish production to employ coconut production. Definitely the person who is relatively inefficient in fish production, his labor should be withdrawn first. Now, if you withdraw the entire Robinson, because Robinson is relatively inefficient in fish production, right. If you withdraw entire Robinson's labor, how much fish you can produce? Definitely the amount of fish what Friday can produce, Friday alone can produce, right. So, that much. And when you are withdrawing Robinson's entire labor, where you are employing that labor? Definitely coconut gathering. How much total coconut can Robinson produce? this much, no. So, if they employ entire Friday's amount of labor only in the fish production, they can produce this much of fish, and entire Robinson's amount of labor in the coconut gathering, they can produce this much of coconut. Okay. So, what will be that their joint production possibility frontier? Definitely this kind of thing. Definitely this ACB line. Look, this AC segment must be will be the parallel to the Robinson's production possibility frontier, and this CB segment must be parallel to the Friday's production possibility frontier. So, although we are in a situation where only one type of resource is there, labor hour or time of different, but although one labor is there, but labor are two different qualities. Robinson's labor is relatively efficient in coconut production, Friday's labor is more efficient in fish gathering, right. So, although labor are two different qualitative kind of labor. You may be very efficient in physics, your friend may be not that much efficient in physics, but he is very efficient in chemistry, that can happen. So, same amount of labor have different expertise in different production. So, here only two different type of labor we are getting a production possibility frontier, joint production possibility frontier with a kink at C. Okay. In this way, if you proceed, suppose three different only labor, but three different qualitative labor, you will get the production possibility frontier having two kink, this kind of thing, and so on. So, as a result, when we are talking about the entire economy, it has lot of different types of resources and all, right. So, different qualitative resources are there, right. So, it has a tendency to get this kind of small kink. So, in a limiting sense, you will get this kind of thing. So, with this Robinson Crusoe and Friday's example, I am sure that it is quite clear to each of you that why production possibility frontier will be concave towards the origin, and that concave production possibility frontier, when we are talking about production possibility frontier for an entire country, entire economy, entire society, right, in that way. Let me just demonstrate one more couple of terminologies. Positive vis-a-vis normative statement, that is there, all these things what we are discussing are that this Robinson Friday's example, this is not there in the chapter 2 of the book we are discussing, but other than that all the things are there. Okay. Please procure that book, it will be an asset for you people. So, positive statement and normative statement what we refer, let me just tell that through positive statement we try to narrate the real life, what is there. So, suppose in your class in a semester that average score of a subject or on a paper by all of you people in that class is say 65%. So, I am telling that average score of this class is 65%, quote unquote. That statement is positive statement. Why? Because that's through that statement I am trying to narrate one fact. Now, suppose I am making that thing in a different way. I am telling that average score of this class is not that much good. This not that much good, when I am telling, definitely the person who is telling that not that much good, that person has some sort of benchmark in his mind, his or her mind, that average score perhaps he or she was expecting little bit more than 65%. That is why he is telling that it is not that much good, right. So, since the second term or second statement is made vis-a-vis some norm, although norm is not exclusively mentioned here, it is there in his mind, that is why that kind of statement is called normative statement, statement vis-a-vis certain norm. Sometimes those norm can be explicitly mentioned, sometimes it is not mentioned explicitly, it may be there in hidden in the background. Okay. So, you just try to understand by normative statement we will always assign some sort of value kind of thing, ought to be, should be, good, bad, this kind of value judgment is assigned with normative statement. And positive statement, that simplest statement that this is the case. Okay. Say I am observing in this room, say only red color chairs are there. So, I am telling that chairs are red. So, that is a positive statement. Instead of that, if I tell chairs are not that much good looking, that means what? Perhaps I do not like red color that much, perhaps some other color I like. Okay. But that normative statement, I have one kind of value judgment I am assigning, somebody else may be telling that chairs are very good looking, right. So, this normative statement always with having some sort of value judgment assigned with them, and that is why that value judgment can differ from subject to subject, person to person. When 65% average score, I am telling that score is not that much good, another person can tell that 65% score is very good. Okay. That depends on the person who is telling that kind of statement, what is the hidden norm in his or her mind's background. Okay. Let us stop here and we will continue in our next class, subsequent discussion.